Well, guys, thank you for this. Maybe I think it's the closing panel for the morning section, and a hard one because pretty much everything was said about regulation and politics, geopolitics, and well, at least we know that it's a key issue for the sector and for for Brazil and for LATAM to be competitive in this global race for investments and data center operations. Well, my name is Rodrigo Santiago. I'm managing partner for Impetus Public Affairs, and I'm very glad to be in this panel where we have operators, investors, state representative, municipality representative. Unfortunately, we don't have a federal representative here because Igor Marquezine had to fly over to Brasilia. Neither some congressmen that are all in Lisbon with Gilmar Mendes, but I think it would be a very nice group therapy, and we can tackle a bit on global perspectives. I think Jeff, that will present himself quite shortly, can give us. Also with Serafim, some regional perspectives, and maybe comment with state and municipal actors, but also the operators, on a bit on synthesize the questions that were already raised in the previous panels concerning energy, grid connection, infrastructure, but of course, data, regulation, and legal certainty. So before we start, please, if we can start with Jeff, just give your mini bio and then.
Good morning, and thanks for having us here. My name's Jeff Ferry. I am a board member with Elea Data Centers, and I've kind of an international investor. I worked with Goldman Sachs for 20 years. Primarily in the data center space, investing in infrastructure in the U.S., in Asia, Europe, and South America.
Good morning yet? Okay, good morning, or I don't know. Before lunch is always morning, right? Good morning, you all. First of all, thank you for the Tech Capital for putting it all together, especially João, that I've been talking for the last weeks. And I am Thiago. I work at Invest São Paulo. Invest São Paulo is the investment promotion agency of the state of São Paulo. Before that, I had quite a couple decades on government, but my last gig on the federal government was as National Secretary for Digital Policies. The first draft of Rio Data, I had my hands on it. I was the person in charge of it when I was National Secretary for IT Policies. So I'm very excited about this new moment and about this panel that we are about to have.
Hello, I don't know if I need to present me again, but I think it's already afternoon now. That will change for me. Like, it will be a pleasure to be with you guys again. I'm representing Secretary of Development of Rio, that's Osmar Lima, the Mayor Eduardo Paes, and the Undersecretary Marcel Balaciano. My name is Manoel.
I'm Serafim Abreu. Thank you for the invitation to Tech Capital. Really appreciate to be here with you guys. I'm a CEO of NextStream. NextStream is a platform of 10 data centers located in 5 countries in Latin America, and we operate for more than 20 years in the region, so it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you, folks. Jeff, maybe already starting with you in a global perspective. Can you compare the region, Latin, and of course, Brazil, when it comes to government support and engagement?
Sure. Perfect. So this panel does feel like a continuation of the last question and the last comment made in regards to the government laws, the regulations, the taxes, et cetera. And so when you look at it from a foreign investment standpoint, right, from the, say, U.S. investor or global investor investing either in domestic, countries or internationally, I think I always use the term friction, right? Like, how hard is it to put money in or how hard is it to put money out? And what are the restrictions or what are the advantages to do so? And so from our perspective and from, say, like when I was at Goldman in the U.S., there certainly are a lot of advantages of investing in Brazil. They were enumerated this morning, right? Large economy, large population, green energy, lots of excess energy, and then access to energy because there's plenty of energy in the grid, and favorable economic like winds. And so I think those are all huge positives when it comes to the what I would call the macro kind of focus or the micro focus within the economy. I think the other things that then become important are the last comment from is like the regulatory, the tax to bring in equipment for our customers, the friction of getting money in or out in regards to that, and then the last comment from the was in regards to the government regulation as it pertains to copyrights or data sovereignty, and so you always have to view it from our customer's standpoint. Like, we obviously view it from the investment standpoint, but we care about how the customer, the end customer, the hyperscalers, the AWSs, the Microsoft, Googles, NVIDIA, Oracles, et cetera. And so how do they think about what's it going to cost? They think about it as a total cost of ownership, a TCO, right? So in that vein, the low-cost power here, the green power, very positive. The tax, the redata, kind of like hopefully comes through very soon. That creates, think about the oil in the engine, right? That creates lubricant to reduce the friction to be able to bring capital in and make it easier for them to invest. And so I think that's a huge part of it. The other pieces is you want to make sure that there are not other limiting factors as far as data sovereignty. As I said, right, the U.S. is fairly open, Europe fairly closed. You want to be closer to like the U.S. framework versus say the Europe framework, and making sure that it makes it much easier to be able to bring capital in. So that kind of, I think, sets the overview of how we think about this conversation and the interactions with government.
Thank you, Jeff. And maybe we go to Serafim about bringing these friction points, as Jeff says, to a regional perspective. As you operate over 5 countries in Latin America, how do you see the evolution of public understanding and involvement when it comes to data center ecosystems throughout the region?
I think we are, I used to say that in technology, the South countries, in the globe, they are lucky to be the last, because most of the, I would say the tough discussions has been taken, at the North countries, so we can learn from them. But we do have, we need to do our homework, right? And, starting from Mexico, going down to Argentina, each country, they have their own I would say, constraints and opportunities, of course. Mexico is near shore to the United States, so easy to negotiate and do business with the United States. But on the other hand, Mexico has a challenge to deal with a monopoly of the power company and all the investments that needs to be made. We see a lot of projects going on solar energy, but we still need to deal with the distributor and the transmission lines, which are owned by the government. Going down to Peru, is another country that we operate. Peru is a small market comparing to the other markets in Latin America, but Peru is very well connected to through the Pacific, right? So, we see some opportunities there, even though we see a lot of competition as well in Peru. But going down to Chile, I think Chile, everybody spoke about that. It's more stable. It's an easy to do business with, and a lot of let's say our clients are there, our competitors are there. It's a small market comparing to Brazil, but it's easy to do business in Peru and in Chile, and easy to develop projects in Chile as well. Moving down to Argentina, I see a lot of underdevelopment comparing to other countries. If you take in consideration that Argentina has been under a crisis for 20 years, a lot of companies were not able to move to the cloud. So I see a huge opportunity for the cloud providers in Argentina, but we have to deal with Argentina. So, and I think the challenge is, what's going to happen in Argentina if that's going to last for years, as we need to develop, and to deploy capital for the long term. And then comes Brazil. I think Brazil is is the next boundary of AI and machine learning because of our energy matrix in Brazil. Of course, regulatory needs to do the same pace. We rely a lot on Brascom, rely a lot on ABDC to help the industry to get organized and get the government sensitive about what needs to be done, because we still have constraint about taxes, regulations, and we also have some constraint, as has been spoken this morning here, about the transmission lines, right? We generate a lot of power in the Northeast, but how can we source this power in the Southwest? So it's a challenge. It's something that needs to be done not only by our industry, which, by the way, is a small industry comparing to the other industries, but also with the power industry, with the government and regulation as well.
Thank you, Serafim. Maybe moving to the next block concerning energy and infrastructure. You mentioned the bottlenecks of transmission lines and, of course, grid connection. We know that it's a federal commitment. However, we have here Thiago and Manoel from subnational levels. Maybe Thiago or Manoel, can you answer us how state and municipality level mitigate these bottlenecks, even if it concerns a federal responsibility? Maybe also add a little point concerning power supply, if may so.
Actually, it's a very sad question to make for us because we have no legal means to address this issue. It's something that our role is to dialogue, is to debate the issue, especially with the federal government. We've been together with Apex yesterday and we talked, I believe, 1 hour about that alone. And the thing is, I have been in talks with the EPE for quite a while. And, under the current framework, there's no way we can fix that because the framework of transmission lines in Brazil, you got to make a study, then you send it to the ministry, then it's gonna happen an auction about that. It's a process of 7-8 years, while the demand for energy grows exponentially year by year. São Paulo alone had 3.5 giga of requests to connections to the transmission grid in 2023, and in 2024 it was 12 giga. So there's no way of the current framework of transmission auctions will keep up with the growth in demand. So maybe it's time to get creative and have a different solution. So what we are trying to do is to get the federal government to the table and try to explore creative possibilities. Just like we know we had this on PCHs and CGHs 1 decade ago or more than 1 decade ago. So maybe if we explore a model where it doesn't depend upon an auction, but the private sector can build, and after that he can donate to the national operator of the system, maybe that would be a possibility. The other possibility, and it's what we are making right now, we are talking to data center operators that are willing to build data centers next to the power generation. So there are some data center players that are in talks right now that they are planning to build a thermal plant within the data center, so they would generate their own energy. It's like, Rafael from Modata said, okay, in Northeast you won't have a problem with transmission. Well, they won't have a problem with transmission because they have a huge wind power plant there. They generate their own energy. So, but it's a problem of whole Brazil. It's not a problem only for data centers. And one thing that I really like about Afonso Nina is that he always makes the right questions. So, and he asks the right question. Okay, we are doing all that for AI data centers, training AI models. Okay, but what kind of models we are going to train here if they cannot be trained with not being liable on IP, on the input, if we are not debating the way that we should debate about the legal liabilities on solidarity on the data storage on the data centers. So I believe that, maybe we can rely, as the party representative said, okay, but the law it's not really applied here in Brazil. Okay, but is there a problem? Because it creates legal uncertainty. So maybe we should, and I'm always the boring guy in the room that says, okay, the things are not as easy as they seem, and we should take it more seriously and debate it day by day with the federal government, because they are on the verge of making things very bad for us, especially on not being fast enough on the transmission grids, but also on the regulation on AI that can hinder the innovation and hinder the construction of new data centers here.
Maybe, Thiago, before passing to Manuel, you mentioned creativity. And when we mix creativity, government, and Congress, normally it's not a good mix, right? So we need to be a bit careful of it. And maybe any comments on those structural changes we need to make concerning the provisional measure on the power sector? Do you see transmission lines auctions being dealt in any way, or can be fixed by the MEP? It's in Congress.
You're asking to me. It's not a good idea to ask those things to me. Okay. Okay. Yes, we are talking a lot with EP, and by a lot I mean a lot. I've been chasing those guys wherever I can. I was in Texas debating oil and gas, and all of a sudden I call Eloisa from EP. Okay, we got to talk about data centers. Because for São Paulo, it's not a problem only for data centers. Right now, okay, we have the largest industrial complex in Latin America. So for us, the bottleneck on transmission, it's something that is worrisome for all São Paulo industry. So it's something that we are debating a lot. The thing is, it's not up to the Congress, not right now, on the case of the energy. It's about EPE and ANEEL and the ministry. I feel that they lack enough people. I feel that they were not prepared for the rise in demand, not only for data centers, but also for the green hydrogen projects in the Northeast. And there's something that if we don't get, in the word I can use is just creative, and if we don't get creative and establish a new legal framework to transmission lines in the shortest term possible, we will have a problem not only for data centers, but also for the for industry. So the federal government is debating the de-industrialization of Brazil. And we have green energy. Yes, in São Paulo, 96% of the energy in São Paulo comes from a renewable source, 96. It's cheap energy. In the captive market, it is sold at 8 cents per dollar the kilowatt. It's very, very cheap. It's the cheapest in Latin America, possibly. But it's reliable, but it's reliable for those that are already installed. Only in São Paulo we have Cloud HQ, Ascente, Odata, Elea, Scala, and Microsoft and AWS. They are also building their own data centers. And we gotta, I don't know, maybe with all of us together in a table and to call upon the federal government to make a debate only on energy, maybe that would be a good thing. Because São Paulo is just the annoying guy on the table. Okay, I want to grow more, I want to grow more, I want to grow more. But it's not only a São Paulo thing, it's a Brazil thing. And we are not competing São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. We are competing Brazil and all the other countries. So maybe the tech capital, Impetus, and all the companies here can, you know, with the help and the leadership of Brascom and the ABDC, can help us to establish a debate, a serious debate only on energy. It's something that we got to do for yesterday. And maybe we can come up with a, if not a solution, but at least with a plan.
Manuel, comments on that?
Like, I agree on part of it, but because now I'm in a different position only in that sense, like, because Rio right now, like, we started what you suggested, like, we started to talk before with the players, so with Eletrobras, with BNDES. So Eletrobras said to us that, okay, I'm capable to deliver the energy for you guys. Okay, we talked to BNDES, and we just signed an MOU. It was signed yesterday. with both. So in that sense, like we are very, very confident that we will have, at least for the project that we defended with them, the energy to make it happen. On local site, like we also have like I said in the panel before, like Olympic Games demand us like a lot of structure on Baja area on that time. So like we have a lot of redundancy of the grid. So like it can handle the energy required. As well, like Barra da Tijuca at Macumba Beach, we receive like a large cable system, like the submarine cables that are connected to North America, to Europe, and to Africa as well. And when you talk like on-ground infrastructure, at Barra da Tijuca you have it as well, and we have it mapped. So I think that we are like in a great position right now. I know that for future and for maybe other expansions, maybe anyone in Brazil like are taking the risk, and we have like to keep pushing it. But nowadays, like I came here to bring you guys with me. Like I'm very confident that we can make it. So please join us.
Yeah, no, it's
So
a good
that's a-
point, but
yeah.
the AI city has a plan of 1.3 giga for the next. São Paulo had 12 giga on requests to be linked to the transmission network the last year alone. So maybe it won't pose a problem right now, but if for anyone that's trying to get serious in the game of data center, Ceará, Rio Grande do Sul, Rio de Janeiro, it is a problem already. We have already energy to spare. We don't have transmission lines.
I think I appreciate it. I think the example of this AI city in Rio, right, is I think a good one of like the collaboration amongst Elea with the city, with Electrobras, with BNDES, and more than that, right? I think probably 2 months ago, the mayor of Rio went with Alessandro and went with the finance minister and had meetings in the U.S. and with the customer base, right? And NVIDIA, and took the tour. Like it became very important to be proactive, and go almost recruit those companies and tell them what's going on, and as well as make the changes internally, right? So like that's attracting the customer. The same thing of attracting the if you attract the customer, the capital will follow most certainly, right? And so I think that's important, and that's been a key component of which hopefully that could be replicated, at the next level, right? And that the finance minister can push, additional opportunities, and be proactive and be aggressive, because like this opportunity, to be able to build like this city and to expand probably exists for the next 3 to 5 years, because the customer base, right, is going to be picking where they want to go. And so if this is on the map and other markets in São Paulo and because of the other advantages, and including other parts of LATAM, once they make that choice, and start building, you see it in the U.S. with like Northern Virginia. Like once you build a core, it keeps growing, because that like it's this ecocentric kind of like spin, right? It just keeps getting bigger and bigger because you attract more and more. And so I think that this project here, I think, will be a good example for not only the other cities and regions, but maybe for the government to kind of follow of how can we be proactive and go reach into the U.S. I use the U.S. because that's kind of the center point for capital with New York, and with the customer base essentially sits on the west coast of the U.S. Like being able to kind of like interact and then be proactive to bring them into Brazil and bring them into LATAM, I think is a great kind of like almost a case study.
In all of this proactivity and what federal government is waiting to do, of course, we all talked about it, and I think it's time to go on that. Serafim and Jeff, head data. Pretty much everyone in the room is working on this, working with and put in the details, but maybe some people should get some more clarifications. What are the expectations for this measure? And we talked about, we know about all the details on concerning ZPAs, export importations, Northeast, etc. Hedara, go on.
If I may, well, that's a lot of hope about the Redata right now. We try to emulate, some benefits in the ZPEs. We spoke a lot about, Ceará. We spoke a lot about PLE. And now, since this gentleman here said, that we are going to incent the sector, we're going to have some tax exempts, more, I would say, clear regulations on the sector. Everybody, at least from my perspective, everybody's put their projects on a waiting mode, and let's see what's going to happen, right? Because the financial impact of the projects could be, huge because of the tax, particularly the federal taxes, importation taxes. And but we don't know yet, how that's going to be, I would say, written. We have some clues, but we don't know yet how it's going to be official and by when, right? And I see the market kind of waiting for that move, particularly in Brazil. But something is going to happen, right? And hopefully sooner than later, because this wave is hitting South America right now, and we need to take advantage of that. And another aspect of that we haven't spoke much about is the support from the energy companies, right? We are, I feel the need of the energy companies to be sitting in the same table that we are, because this is not only the transmission lines, but also how can we develop, the projects together, because we are talking about 12 gigawatts, Rio 3 gigawatts, and some other, states in Brazil, willing to develop their own incentives to develop the data center business as well. So perhaps one advice for the associations like Brascon, ABDC is bring the energy companies to the table as well, because they play a very significant role in this equation.
Thiago, as you were one of the first putting your hands in Redata, what are your comments on this? And maybe if you can a little bit of a pinch on what's your worst dreams, worst nightmares about what Congress can do with the MP?
By having my hands, I mean the second draft was on my full authorship. That's why I've been talking to Igor Marquezine a lot. And after that, when I left the federal government, I've been hired for ABDI, to write the national study, the study for a plan, a national plan on data centers. It was delivered in 2022. It was released on 2023. Back then, we are worried about, having enough water to cool the systems. It was a very different concern by 2021 when I was hired to write that. And, Scala was not even a big player back then. And now only in São Paulo, they had monstrous campus in São Paulo. We had here, and one thing that I'd like to say, I know we are all talking about Redata. I talked to Igor that one thing that we think that it should change because the tax reliefs shouldn't be only for 5 years, but for 10 years to allow that it could be renewed. But I'm not sure if the main point is the tax reliefs, because São Paulo alone, we had from 2023 until now 90 billion reais in new investments on data center in São Paulo. And we had a special regime that was also copied for all the states, that we could import the equipments, and if they were to become a fixed asset of you, you wouldn't pay state taxes on that. But none of them applied to have this special regime. Elea didn't use it, Scala didn't use it, Odata didn't use it. The only company that used this special regime was AWS. So that's why the governor wants, okay, so it's for AWS only, so we're going to revoke that. But after that, the company said, no, we want that. So now the governor made the commitment to regain, to retake this, and but I'm not sure. My point is, okay, we had this special tax regime, we had this tax reliefs, and none of them applied to use them. None of them. So is that really the point, or it's the demand? São Paulo offered the demand, and they are all here. So I believe that the red data could be a very good point. I'm not sure if we should pause the investments waiting for the red data, because the government tried to raise taxes last week and couldn't make it because the Congress denied, and now the government is on the Supreme Court trying to overturn the Congress decision to raise taxes. So on one point, at one hand, we see the government actively try to raise taxes and to create new taxes. So how can we expect and pause investments waiting for tax reliefs on the other hand? I'm not sure if that's a point that we could wait and pause investments. I think that we have the demand, so we should keep going.
Jeff?
So the demand is going to be largely dictated by whether that tax gets relieved or not, because when the customer base, AWS, Microsoft, Google, NVIDIA, they invest $1 billion in hardware. They can't pay $500 million in taxes. It's just the TCO doesn't work, the economics don't work. That's why you see you see a lot of continual build, but you also see a slowdown. And this is not whether I put it in São Paulo or Rio, or not whether I put it in São Paulo, Rio, or Chile. This is like the World Cup. Our competition is Norway, our competition is the U.S., our competition is Asia, India. This AI can go anywhere, right? So when we get to inference, it'll probably have to be closer to the edge. But these decisions to invest billions of dollars are going to happen over the next 1 to 5 years, and so the longer it takes to kind of right size the tax or to be more receptive, the longer this could push out. And so if I could there's a couple ways to do it, right? Obviously the tax relief and things makes it easier to bring money in. So I'm going to use this example, and it's probably not the most favorite, but in the U.S., right, and nobody's a fan of Trump per se, right, internationally, but when he goes to SoftBank, literally recruits them to invest capital into the project in Stargate, right, in Texas, and to invest in the AI companies. There's billions and billions of dollars coming into the U.S. When he goes and travels into the Middle East, and he's recruiting dollars, he is recruiting dollars to invest in the U.S., and it works. And so you have to be a recruiter. You have to be a recruiter of capital. You have to make it easier for that capital to come in and out, and you have to make it attractive, right? So. But you have to be a cheerleader for the country and for LATAM, and so the divisions within even the government of Brazil, right? You have these different hierarchies and pillars. I think we talked about this on another panel, right? They have to align. The finance minister has to be aligned with Anatel, has to be aligned with the digital, has to be aligned with infrastructure, right? To know that, listen, we're all in this together, and we need to promote not only. I think the last panel, we not have to be better than we were yesterday, right? This is not comparing to how Brazil and others have compared, and hey, we're making improvements, and our regulation's better than it was yesterday. that's not the blueprint to compare with. Like you need to compare with what the rest of the world is doing and try to blueprint that, right? So you have to kind of look internationally and say, and listen, I'm a big fan of, like, I'm not that creative, but I can follow and copy somebody else and improve upon it, right? So you have a blueprint out there of what to do and how to do it. It's like it's really following that blueprint and seeing how it is, right? Europe GDP do not follow the GDPR, right? Like be more, and you can pick and choose, just like you said, like being in the southern hemisphere, you can learn from other people's mistakes and other people's benefits, right? So I think that's a key point of like there's a blueprint out there that can be replicated that will help like transition things quickly too.
Well, thank you, Jeff. As we have now 3 minutes to close the panel, maybe we'll open the floor to questions and we'll come back to some closing remarks. So please feel free. Any questions from the floor?
I have a question then. What we can do then? What are the next steps? Because all those panels we have good debates, but okay, and the day after. So, what are the next steps? What we can do together to talk with the federal government about red data and transmission lines? What we can do and will we do?
No, like I couldn't talk about read data, so I will only give my opinion now. Like you said, like if they, how can they approve to cut costs right now, cut tributes right now, once they are talking about other things? But for me, it's like Jeff said. So they have to do it because the position is earn less or earn nothing. Because if we don't do read data, the costs will not make it happen. It's simple as that. Like when we talked with everybody, like we know that read data is important. We also think that the government think the same. And like you guys, like we think that it will happen fast because it has to happen. Like it's better to earn like the IVA that we will have in the future with the cities and states and those things, with the employees, with the equipment and those things, then it's better earn less than nothing. So that's my position.
I think my view, back to your question, Thiago, is, we are a small industry, right? And we do have a lot of opportunities, to grow in this country. I think the answer that I would say we should go through the associations, right? To Brascom, to ABDC, and get together as a one single, because, if you go just NextStream or Data or Ascenti, we don't have enough power, honestly. I do believe the association is the right way to achieve and sit down with the government and discuss those issues.
Serafim, maybe so we can close, maybe some final remarks from all of you. And if you can, maybe we talked about geopolitics, we talked about a lot of momentum that could affect these scenarios. What about 2026? We have elections in Brazil. Maybe that's a key momentum for doing something. Any comments on that? And a closing also remarks. Thank you.
I have
Maybe
little
Serafim is
remarks
the only
on,
one that can answer
remarks
that.
on a election in 2026 in Brazil, but I think clearly the theme from the morning, right, and all the conversations have been about the opportunity that lies before us. We have what I would call a lot of the check marks, like you have green power, excess power, you have like cheap power, you have the resources, you have the need, you have the economy, and you have like and the other side, and we criticize about like the incoming tax, right, the redata, but like the government, like we see this in the U.S., right, like you can't just cut one thing and not replace it with something else. You need to have funding someplace. So the answer might be we need the need is to figure out how do you replace, like I don't know how much, I don't even know what the dollar amount is that comes in from that tax, but it has to come from somewhere, right? You can't just take it away and then hope for better. Like you said, the government is thinking about increasing the income tax or the tax on one side because it's reducing. That it naturally has to happen. like you're going to have the checks and balances, but there is no answer because you can see from the U.S. right there is no answer in trying to balance the budget. Well, balancing the budget's not a ridiculous statement because it's so off, but of trying to at least close the gap on how to fund and where is that funding coming from.
Yeah, and I think despite of what's going to happen next year, the interest rate in Brazil is 15%, guys. So despite of the interest rate that is so high for us, we see a lot of private funds willing to deploy capital in the country. So it's a good deal. It doesn't depend the government. It depends much more on how can we portray the opportunity to the government. That's my view.
On municipal level, I want to end my speech here saying that we are open to listen to all to you. Like, Rio AI City is for everybody. And like, we think that we really have the condition to make it. And like, with the private sector and talking with the other instances. So let's come to Rio, guys.
Well, he's saying that in São Paulo. So, okay, the best of the world is to make money in São Paulo, it's spend it on Rio. I get that. But I want to apologize to play the pessimistic guy on the room. But I'm always concerned about the next steps, what we're going to do next, and what we're going to do next of the next. Because okay, we debated. We all know what are the problems. We all know what is got to be done. So, what we're going to do about it? Last year, Governor Tarcísio held a meeting in the Palácio dos Bandeirantes, a seminar on AI, only to debate the bill of law that was trying to regulate AI and how it was concerning for São Paulo to have that bill of law passed. We're going to hold the next seminar in August, probably, now with the rapporteur on the lower house, on the Chamber of the Deputies, just to debate and try to lean on the possibility to make it easier, a softer regulation, a more incentivizing regulation, but I don't think that the government of São Paulo can do it alone, can do it by itself. We need to do it together. We need to come up with strategies involving governments and companies to debate those points. And as you all said, we have 1 to 5 years to make those decisions. So we have, 3 to 6 months to try to address those issues. So the best way to do that is together, and I hope we can come up with a solution together.
You can also tell your boss to go back to Brazil in a few times, right?
I cannot tell that.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to thank you for our final panel before lunch.